Kai-Markus Müller is a German neuroscientist, entrepreneur, and professor. He has a PhD in neuroscience and he teaches consumer behavior at HFU Business School in Germany. He is known for having developed an EEG-based research technique for measuring willingness to pay. He's also the co-author of the book, The Invisible Game. Here to talk to us about the psychology of pricing, please welcome to the podcast, Kai-Markus Müller. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Anders.
Hi, good to have you here. And you're coming, and you're in Germany right now, yes? Is it
Yes.
Schwenningen, or where are you based?
I live north of Stuttgart, so
Stuttgart, okay.
close to Stuttgart, Germany. Yeah, the city of Mercedes and Porsche.
Well, hey, that's good, right? Because big brands that perhaps they could, use your research and your consulting. So I alluded to it in the intro. I mean, your thing is you've somehow been able to figure out how to measure people's willingness to pay, which is like reading minds. And for those listening, they know my background is being a magician, so it's like reading minds is cool to me. So, so can you tell us about how you got into that and figured that out? Because that just seems like too good to be true, almost.
Well, as you said, I'm a psychologist / neuroscientist by training. And after my PhD, which I did in the United States, I went back to Germany to work for a pricing management consultancy. And very quickly, I recognized that, we can have the best mathematical model on what an introductory price for a new product should be, for instance, or for the optimal price change, for a price adjustment. We can figure these things out with good math, but we have a garbage in, garbage out problem. That means if we just go out and ask people, well, you're the perfect target group for, I don't know, let's take Mercedes for this instance. I don't know, you run a business, you want to have maybe a Mercedes E-Class or something like that, a good, upscale Mercedes. How much would you pay for it, right? If you are really the right target group and you really want to have a Mercedes, you are not likely to tell me the truth. You might, first of all, it's a general problem in marketing research. People don't really know how they're going to act in future. But beyond that, in pricing, they're not even interested in telling you the truth because they want to have, they feel like they are going to influence the future price of that product. And that, of course, makes them want to give you not the right answer, but give you a slightly lower answer, most likely. And so I said, we need to fix this issue in pricing research, and we need to understand true willingness to pay for every subject that we ask, for every participant, for every person who participates in a pricing research study. And so I said, we need to ask there where the person cannot lie, and the brain is the place that does not lie. So if I pick your brain directly, I can directly access your feelings, your emotions, and your initial brain response to a price. And in my case, I'm testing with a EEG brain scan cap. That's this cap, which looks like a bathing cap and little wires stick out of the head.
Yeah.
I measure a match or a mismatch. And so I show a product and a price, and then I can basically see, does this price match the product or does it not match? So for example, if I say bread and butter, your brain response to butter will be kind of a yes response. If I say table and butter, is more of a mismatch. That those two things have nothing to do with each other. Maybe table and chair have something to do with each other. So this basic insight from the science of EEG brain research is what I adjusted to fix the issues in pricing research. And we've done this for quite a number of very cool companies, such as Audi or PepsiCo, pharmaceutical companies, and so forth, and have identified, how much are people willing to pay, and then also turned this with a neuroeconomic algorithm into a demand function, so we can actually model how demand drops following, for example, a price increase, or how much demand goes up following a price decrease. Yeah, so that is neuropricing, and it's fun, and it works very, very well. We have a bunch of scientific studies that show that. We have also a more scalable tool that I've developed, which is based on reaction times, also subconsciously. So if I give you a product and a price, we discuss a new product, I don't know, anything, a new computer or a new cell phone or something like that, and I tell you, for the cell phone, what is 3,000 euros? You got to respond very quickly, cheap or expensive. So this new cell phone, 3,000 euros, you may quickly say that's expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
But if I say 100 euros, you may quickly say that's cheap. But if I say, look, it's a fancy new thing, 1,200 euros or $1,200 in that case, you may think, is this cheap or expensive? Oh, well, maybe I'd rather say expensive, but it takes you a split second longer. And this slight increase in the reaction time, that reveals your true value perception and your true willingness to pay.
So when that time space, or when it takes longer, you're actually honing in on something where it's actually the true value is what you're seeing, because they can't decide, right? They're flip-flopping.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
interesting.
It. Yes.
Now I have a question too.
We've done the same thing with the brain scan, right? And we've done 2,500 brain scans with the cheap, expensive exercise. So we exactly know, we can use the response times to understand what the brain responds like.
And one of the things you said earlier that made me think of people seeing, a price mismatch is like sticker shock, like, holy smokes, right? I guess you see that on the brain scan, right? Sticker shock being an actual state that the mind almost goes into, right? Because of the mismatch. Oh,
indeed. Yes. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Now, I want to know, because you're doing kind of the way it's kind of explained right now, or the way I'm imagining it, Kai, is that you're seeing like images pop up on the screen that people are, responding to quickly. It's more of a what something is and the price. When you start working with a company that provides value that may be more complex as opposed to, just like cell phone, right? How do you account for people understanding that value to associate a price? Now, is that too, I don't know if you can answer that. Let's see.
It has come up many times in my life, this question. So it's a good question. It's one that really probably many of our listeners have now. Basically, this is a question of marketing research. In any marketing research tool, you have that problem. If you want to price a new price a new product, you got to explain it well. So when you do pricing research, whether you do it with a questionnaire or whether you do it with brain scans or reaction times, you have to explain the product very well. And ideally, you bring this brain into a state in which the brain later is when the brain makes a purchasing decision. So to give you an example, we have been working with an insurance. And they have a complex product, right? It's like, some things are insured, others are not. It's for certain people with certain risk profiles, and for others it's not so good. So you got to really make sure that a person understands it. And potentially you can even create a case, something we've been doing with a bank when we studied interest rates. What's the optimal interest rate for a specific loan? We said, look, what is your ideal case? Is it I buy a new kitchen, I need a loan, I go on honeymoon, or is it I buy a car, or is it, I don't know, I have a medical issue and need $15,000 or something like that, you know. So we made them pick one of these, and then we said, okay, so imagine you're in the state and you now have to get this loan of $15,000. And these are the specific contract details, and these are the specific specifications of the product and of the loan. And so here we go. These are the different interest rates.
So
Yeah.
you make people, Kai, you're kind of making people take on certain conditions in sort of a thought experiment of sorts, right?
Yes.
Put them in a position so that you're kind of getting an objective kind of sense of the value that they see. Is that
Right.
that's kind of okay?
That's exactly it. That's
Okay.
but to be fair, most good market researchers do that, right? Well,
Yeah.
they may not use reaction times or brain scans, but this is something you need to do, right? So if you get your research right, you really have to make sure that people understand the product that they're evaluating, right? And you need to make sure that you have the right people also, of course, that like the product, right? That are a good fit and potential buyers of the product.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
could really skew your research if it's not the message to market fit kind of
Yeah.
piece. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so if and have you had all kinds of companies like B2B and B2C companies participate in this? I don't know what do we even to call it, consulting, I guess. To be able
Yeah.
to find out and hone in on that perfect price, or is there such thing as a perfect price? I don't know. That's a separate question, really.
That is another question. That would have a question we really should also discuss after answering the first one.
Sure.
So I worked with Simon Kutscher, famous pricing consultancy in the pharmaceutical division. And when I left Simon Kutscher to kick off my own startup, I thought, this will be the last time I've seen pharmaceuticals, right? And this will be the last time I've seen B2B. It wasn't like that at all, really. It's so interesting that I have been applying neuro pricing in so many different various different industries. I'll give you a few examples. We have been working in the very, very B2C space, such as spare parts for cars, such as coffee prices, potato chips, and so forth. But then we've also done a bit more B2B-ish things, such as veterinarian products, right? Where it was, the vet had to pay part of the dog medication, and other parts had to be paid by by the customer, basically, by the dog owner. Then we've gone on to do, as I said, pharmaceuticals, where you have a totally different scenario. You have the user and the payer and the decider. They're all three different people. There's a doctor and the insurance and the patient, right? And we've done things like co-pays for patients. We've done things like, does a doctor accept this price, right? So we've done things like, so that's the healthcare stuff. So then we have also done real diehard B2B things, such as we worked with a Silicon Valley company that does basically soft and hardware for companies. And this company, they wanted to know what are typical system administrators of small and mid-sized enterprises. What are they willing to pay, and what is their value perception of their specific services that the Silicon Valley giant provided, right? And so in that case, for example, and that is interesting, because in that case, we really needed to use the EEG brain cap, because the EEG brain cap works with as few as 40 people. So we used 40 system administrators of small and mid-sized enterprises and tested their value perception of the software. Whereas, sometimes in other cases, such as recently we've done a baby app, right, for parents. That was something where we did actually test simply 300 young parents, an online tool with reaction times. And that's a more of a scalable thing. You can, easily recruit lots of people quickly. But depending on the exact question, you get all these kinds of things. Sometimes another B2B case, very cool that we've had was basically for an American banking software provider. They needed to have a business case to convince credit unions that the normal consumer will buy this product at a specific price, right? So the credit unions were skeptical whether they should go and buy the software. So the software company provided a business case based on brain scans of consumers that show that the consumer value perception really is that high that the software is worth buying.
Wow.
So you see, it's all kinds of stuff.
So many applications. And as you're talking, Kai, I've got so many questions going. I'm almost like kind of stacking them up in my brain so that I might need to make some notes so we come back. But I did tease beforehand, because I asked two questions at once, which sometimes I do. The perfect price. Can we come back to that? What is there such a thing? How do you hone in on that? And is that the pursuit of a lot of your customers?
It's a great question, because a research tool can only give you an answer about perceived value and about potentially, if it's a good research tool, about demand, right? So, how much demand will there be when you launch product X at price Y? So, interestingly, the best price is not something that any research in the world could give you, because the best price is a question of your strategy. Do you want to have the maximum revenue? My research can tell you the maximum revenue, but do you want to have the maximum profit, which is usually a higher price than the maximum revenue? I can give you the maximally profitable price. Or is it potentially something like you want to drive your competition out of the market by underpricing them?
Right.
Or you want to do skim pricing, the way, Apple does this famously with their iPhones, like starting very high and then after a few months going lower, so skimming one after the other. Or do you need to do penetration pricing? Well, you got to start, you may enter markets at very low prices and then go up. So all these questions, what is the best price, are really a question of the strategy, partially even of the competitive set. So one question is, are you a price leader or are you a price follower? So sure. If you are the top brand, and when I go up, well, everyone else goes up. My pricing research will be designed slightly different from when you are a price follower, right? And you say, when I go up, what will the price leader do? So these are all interesting questions that will end up determining the best price, and the best price is something that depends on your strategy. Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I suppose it does make a lot of sense that it depends on what are you trying to accomplish, and then you can hone in on, what does that perfect price mean to you, right?
Exactly. Because for most of the questions, you do need the demand function, and that is what I can give you. Potentially others can give you, but I'm very convinced that I have a very good tool to give you. But you need the demand function. That's basically it. Yeah.
So Kai, if we look at some strategies for pricing. Okay. So I know of a few just from hearing them where you kind of have maybe 3 different packages, and one of them they're probably not going to go for, which is, like kind of, I don't know if I think you mentioned, like anchoring or setting some idea of what things are worth, and then you can play off of that price, or decoy pricing. I've heard some of those things. Can you kind of talk about what those are and some of those pricing strategies that maybe some of our listeners might be able to employ at their companies?
Right, of course. So the first thing you got to understand about pricing, to all the listeners out there, is that a price is only an arbitrary association between a number and a thing, or a number and a service. It is not, we all believe that a price is built up on cost and is something that is justified based on some sort of variable cost or so. But the more you think about it, the more you recognize how illogical this entire thinking is. Think about something where you need R&D, and you have a billion of R&D, and then you have a great product, right? This product, well, needs to cover all the R&D. So, well, a famous example is, again, sorry to nail down this example again, but the iPhone, it costs like nothing to produce, right? It's like less than $10 or so to produce actually this device, right? But there's so much other stuff going in that, in the end, the value, many people use this device, every hour of their life. It's more important than their car, or the iPhone, more important than one of the most important products they consume. And it has a very high value, between $1,000 and $2,000, right? So again, the price has usually close to nothing to do with the cost, right? And while we perceive it is like that, we think like, okay, this is a better pair of jeans, or this is a better car or so. A lot of these things are very emotional, right? And that insight really gives you a lot of psychological leverage for yourself as well as for the customer. First of all, for yourself, just forget about all the forget about the effort you put in, right? It is much more, right? It is, for example, if you run a consultancy, it's your education, it's your student loan, it's your the podcast you make, whatever. It's so many things that go into that. Of course, it justifies a very high hourly rate, but if you compare this to other people, it may sound like a bizarrely high hourly rate, but it is not, right? Because you do a lot to get towards this hourly rate. So and this insight, when you understand this for yourself as an entrepreneur or as someone who works in business, it frees you up from thinking, I need to stick to variable cost, or I need to stick to the cost of the product. So then when you have done that exercise, that mental exercise for yourself, and you free yourself from the cost side, then think about, what can you do with value? Maybe you can compare your product with a comparable product, or with something analogous. Or you can just, if it's something new, you can just set an anchor. Let's think about this. In the old days, people used to pay a lot for text messaging in their cell phone contracts, right? But then tools like WhatsApp or Telegram came up, and people really valued them very much because they saved them something like $50 in yearly costs of text messaging. So when WhatsApp then wanted to introduce a little fee, which in the end they didn't do, but that was for a long time, that was something that WhatsApp was planning on. This $1 or $2 that they were charging per year, it sounds like nothing, right? It's ridiculously cheap, right? Because people are anchored and they're stuck on these 50 euros, right? So here's the thing, like this, you can play with these anchors oftentimes yourself. And one thing you've mentioned was, for example, the tendency towards the middle, so the sandwich pricing, right? So you can, for example, say, I'm giving you 3 options. Well, you could, for example, say, let's see. Well, if you work in B2B, you could say, you know, I'm giving you a big IT solution that is like, you know, I don't know, it costs you $500,000 a year. But, you know, there's also something in the middle that is just nearly as good, but it just costs like 100,000 a year. And there's also the lousy product that's 70,000 a year.
You don't say that out
And
loud,
then,
but that's how
no,
it's
you don't.
perceived, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
You
The
do this in a
lousy
smart
product.
way.
Yeah, okay.
You don't say it's a lousy product, but you make it clear that this is,
Yeah.
and this will make people automatically gravitate towards the middle option, because the 100,000 euro product sounds like a very good deal, and it sounds like exactly what you want, and it sounds like, you know, given the other two options, this is good value for money, right? Of course, you know, how do we know that the software solution for your business is actually worth 100,000 a year? I mean, as long as you save at least 100,000, it's worth it. But, you know, maybe someone else would have sold it for 50,000 or for 20,000. It is really arbitrary, right? It is about and this you have to understand, right? It's arbitrary, and it can be influenced very much, right? I mean, all the clothes we're wearing, you know, you can get them at a very cheap store. You can get jeans or shirts at a very cheap store. They're all made of cotton. Frankly, they're probably made at a similar plant in Bangladesh or wherever, or in Turkey or so. But, you know, we like to wear something that is according to our standards. We like to drive a car that is somewhat according to our standards.
Brand comes into that, and the emotions and the I mean, there's such, but it's nice that what your work does is kind of actually almost like a level playing field, and looking at the brain to kind of get a sense of that, because there's so many things happening, right? It's very complex, happening all at once. Right. And as you're talking about this, it makes me it sounds like, you know, this is a real game, and it brings me back to your book, The Invisible Game. Can you tell, is that what the game is about, or what is the invisible game, Kai?
Yes. So The Invisible Game is my latest book, co-authored with Gabi Reebok. And we're a nice team, because Gabi is someone who has 30 years of experience in B2B sales. So she sold huge chemical projects. Every year she sold something like 300 million or so in revenues. So she's a really a huge key accounting expert. And myself, being the professor of consumer behavior. And we bring together, you know, the practice and the theory to some degree. And well, of course, Gabi is well versed in theory, and I have also sold a lot of things. We are still, you know, I think it makes up for a good team. And the idea in The Invisible Game is that there is a huge wealth of knowledge in consumer psychology. And sadly, you know, companies like Amazon or Booking.com or so, they test so much. They test so much that they don't really need most of these theories. They can, like, you know, check them out, but they also can just test it, right? Amazon has like so many millions of clicks every day. They can just test whatever they want to test before they implement it. However, in the B2B space, sometimes, you know, some people have 5, 10 or 20 big projects a year, and that's it. Some of them have 1 or 2, right? So it's really critical. Every project, in many B2B cases, every project or every offer you write is critical. You really want to get that deal, right? It's not like you test around like Amazon, you know, today he clicks, tomorrow he doesn't. That's not what you can do, right? You got to say, you know, I really need to sell that project this time. And in order to sell the project successfully, you can actually apply all the great theories and all the great insights from consumer psychology. So I believe that in B2B, there's even more applicability and at least as much need for consumer psychology as there is in consumer science, classic consumer science, because, you know, we are all influenceable, whether we wear a suit or whether we wear jeans and go to the I don't know, Walmart to buy something, we are influenceable by the same psychological mechanisms, and even a professional procurement expert is influenceable. We cannot stop that, right? It's a running gag, a running joke that my wife tells me. Well, you tell people about discounts and so forth, and now you've bought again branded sweaters on discount. Like, it's like, myself, I cannot stop being, influenced by such things and being like, I want to buy this thing on discount. So, but anyway, so the invisible game, which the full title of the book is The Invisible Game, The Secrets and the Science of Winning Minds and Winning Deals. This book is about basically three major concepts. The first one is situational awareness. So you got to be aware. Am I influenced or not? Am I under stress or not? And you got to be aware of yourself, and aware of the situation. Like now something important is happening, or now it's just chit chat, just being aware of the situation and being aware of, for example, being anchored, right? Perceiving a high number and making sure that this high number does not influence you. Then the second part is defense. Like, how do I defend, for example, how do I defend prices when someone comes with a discount request? How do I deal with keeping my business? How do I defend my clients against intruders into the market? And the third part is offense. This is, how do I design choice architectures? For example, how do I design a decoy? How do I design a price anchor? How do I design a sandwich where I, make people gravitate towards the middle option? And these three major factors make up the invisible game. And and so it's been a huge, it's been quite a success, actually, the book, and it was a lot of fun writing it. And it brings together consumer psychology with B2B, and it's actually written for the professional B2B salesperson.
Nice. Well, you know what ends up happening, and I kind of joke with this with other guests, is I bring on guests and I go, damn, I got to get that book. And right now you just sold me. And what ends up happening is right after our recording here, I'm going to be like on Amazon buying another book. So,
Thank
but
you.
it's good. Yeah. And by the way, is it available on Amazon? I'm going to guess probably it is. Okay. So
yes.
that
It's available
and
anywhere in all good bookstores. It is published by a major publishing house, Wiley. So it's available all over the place. You should go get it on Amazon. And if you want to, I'm always happy about a good review.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, no, definitely. Kai, this stuff is also fascinating, and I mean, I love, the psychology of how people are thinking about, again, a transaction or, the services and seeing value. And of course, everyone wants to, be able to sell more if that's their role at a company. So this is all kind of useful stuff, but complicated, right? And it takes someone like yourself to analyze it and put it all together so that we can have takeaways, the applications. How can people reach out to you, Kai, if they want to maybe get some consulting, get some more information about how you might be able to help their company?
Yeah. So my name is Kai-Markus Müller. If you Google me, you find me. That's no problem. My website's Kai-MarkusMüller.com. If you are interested in the neuro pricing services, the research services, they've been, my technology has been acquired by a company called Neurensics. We are based in Amsterdam. I'm on board there as a director of pricing research. And we offer this, as a high-tech market research or boutique market research agency. And any questions, you can just shoot me an email. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I have, quite a followership on LinkedIn, and I'm posting regularly. Sometimes I'm posting clips from various podcasts or clips from talks or other thoughts about current events.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Kai, and sharing your expertise with us.
Yeah, thank you, Anders.
Excellent.
Thanks for
Well,
having me.
thank you to all our listeners for tuning in once again. And remember, until next time, stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.